You are not bad with money because you lack discipline. You are bad with money because somebody taught you how to feel about it before you ever earned a single dollar, and you have been running their program on your life ever since. Think about the very first memory you have of money. Not a number, not a lesson, a feeling. Maybe it was your mother's face when the mail came. Maybe it was your father counting bills at the kitchen table with the lights turned low so the neighbors would not see. Maybe it was the silence that fell over dinner whenever the word rent was mentioned. You did not understand economics at 5 years old, but you understood fear, and fear does not need vocabulary to leave a mark. It just needs repetition. Psychologists call this a money script, a belief about money that formed so early and so quietly that you never chose it. You simply absorbed it, the same way you absorbed your accent or your posture. And here is the uncomfortable part. Most of us are not making decisions with our own values. We are making decisions with a set of rules written by people who were terrified, or ashamed, or desperate, and who handed us that fear disguised as guidance. Researchers who study this call it financial socialization, and the findings are almost unsettling in how early it happens. By the age of 7, a child's core beliefs about money are already forming, long before they can add or subtract, long before they have ever held a coin in their hand and understood what it could buy. The belief comes first. The math comes later. And once a belief settles in that early, it rarely announces itself. It just quietly steers everything from the back seat. There are 4 of these scripts that show up again and again, and chances are you are living out at least one of them right now without realizing it. The first is money avoidance. This is the belief, usually inherited from a household where money caused constant pain, that money itself is the source of suffering, so the safest thing to do is to not look at it. People with this script do not check their bank balance. They let bills sit unopened. They feel a genuine wave of anxiety at the thought of opening a budgeting app. This is not laziness. This is a nervous system that learned a long time ago that looking at money meant looking at conflict, and it built a wall to protect you from that conflict. The wall is just still standing long after the danger is gone. Some people carry this so far that they can tell you the plot of every show they watched last year, but could not tell you their own account balance within $1,000. Not because they do not care, but because caring once meant pain. And the mind is very good at protecting itself from pain, even when the protection has stopped being useful. The second is money worship, the belief that more money will finally fix the discomfort underneath everything. This one often comes from scarcity, from watching parents stretch every dollar until it screamed, from hearing sentences like "we cannot afford," that so many times it became the family anthem. Children who grow up hearing that phrase often become adults who chase income relentlessly, convinced that the next raise, the next side hustle, the next $1,000 will finally deliver the safety that was missing. The tragic part is that the number never arrives at a feeling of enough, because the wound was never about the number in the first place. You can watch this play out in real time with people who have objectively succeeded, who earn far more than their parents ever did, and who still feel the exact same tightness in their chest every time a bill arrives, because the income changed, but the old fear never got the memo. The third is money status, the belief that your net worth is a direct reflection of your worth as a person. This one often grows in households where appearances mattered more than actual financial health, where a nice car sat in the driveway while credit card statements piled up unopened inside. If you grew up watching adults spend to look successful rather than spend to be secure, you likely learned that image is the goal and stability is optional. This is the script behind the person who earns a good income and still lives paycheck to paycheck, because every dollar is being spent proving something to people who were never actually watching that closely. What makes this script so persistent is that it rewards you instantly. The compliment, the admiring glance, the like on the photo, all of it arrives within seconds, while the damage to your savings account arrives silently, weeks later when you are staring at a number you cannot explain. The fourth is money vigilance, which sounds healthy on the surface, valuing saving, distrusting debt, working hard for financial independence, but taken to an extreme, it becomes an inability to ever enjoy what you have earned. This often comes from a parent who survived real hardship, a recession, an immigration, a layoff that changed everything, and who pass down not just caution but a permanent state of bracing for disaster. Their child grows up financially responsible and quietly exhausted, unable to buy the coffee, unable to take the trip, unable to rest. Because resting has been coded in their body as the moment right before everything falls apart. These are often the people who look from the outside like they have money completely figured out, and yet privately describe their relationship with their own savings as something closer to fear than comfort. Here is why this matters more than any budgeting tip I could give you. You can download every app, follow every rule, build the perfect spreadsheet, and still sabotage yourself every single time. Because a spreadsheet cannot argue with a belief that was installed before you had language. You are not failing at logic. You are obeying an old loyalty. Somewhere inside you there is a quiet, unspoken agreement that says if I spend differently than my parents did, if I feel calm about money when they never got to feel calm, I am betraying them. That loyalty is invisible and it is powerful, and it will beat a budgeting app every single time until you name it. So, how do you actually start rewriting a script you did not choose? The first step is not a financial one at all. It is a single, honest question, and I want you to actually sit with it instead of skimming past it. What did money mean in my house growing up? Was it safety or danger? Was it love or control? Was it something you earned or something you were told you did not deserve? Do not judge the answer, just notice it, because awareness is the very first place the old program loses its grip. You cannot rewrite a script you refuse to read. The second step is separating the emotion from the action. When you feel that flinch, that urge to avoid your bank account, or that compulsive need to buy something to feel like you matter, pause and ask whose voice that actually is. Is this fear mine, earned from my own adult experience? Or is this an inherited alarm going off in a house that is no longer on fire? That single pause, that tiny gap between feeling and reacting, is where change actually happens. It will feel unnatural at first. It is supposed to. You are overriding years of automatic wiring. The third step is choosing one small action that contradicts the old script on purpose. If you inherited avoidance, that might mean checking your balance once, without judgment, just to prove to your nervous system that looking will not destroy you. If you inherited status spending, that might mean buying something ordinary that no one will ever see, just to prove that your worth was never actually up for review. If you inherited vigilance without joy, it might mean spending on something small that brings you genuine pleasure without immediately calculating what it cost you in future security. These are not financial strategies. They are proof, gathered one small experience at a time, that a new story is possible. It also helps to remember that this rewriting is not a single dramatic moment. It is closer to learning a new language while your mouth still wants to speak the old one. There will be weeks where the old script wins, where you avoid the account, or you buy the thing to prove something, or you refuse to rest even when you have earned it. That is not failure. That is simply how deeply rooted patterns behave when you finally start pulling at them. What matters is not a perfect track record, it is the direction you are facing. Money trauma does not mean you were abused. It does not mean your parents failed you. Most of the time it means they were doing their best with a script that was handed to them too, by their own parents, in their own kitchen, under their own version of the same silence. This is not about blame. This is about noticing the inheritance clearly enough that you finally get to choose whether you want to keep it. You are not bad with money. You were simply taught to run a program that was never actually yours. And the moment you can see that program clearly, you already have more power over it than you did 5 minutes ago. That is where real financial change begins. Not in a spreadsheet, but in the quiet decision to finally rewrite the story you were never asked if you wanted.